We all know that real estate has created more millionaires than any other industry on the planet. We also know that it has created a lot of heartache due to mismanagement, overborrowing, and just simple life events that happen to all of us. Welcome to the Cash Flow Pro podcast. My name is Casey Brown, and I am your fearless leader. And although we might be bourbon sipping and at times foul-mouthed Southerners, we will always do our best to be honest, straightforward, and due diligent with all of the information we pass along to you. Welcome to the show. Hey there, and welcome to today's special episode of Cash Flow Pro, your daily real estate investing podcast and YouTube channel. Now, I call this a special episode because this is the second time we've had Mr. Brent Bowers on here, and I re-invited him back to the show for a couple of different reasons. One of the main reasons is everybody wants to know how they can invest in real estate or own real estate or make money in real estate with little to no money like in their pocket. So like if you have little to no money in your pocket, say under $10,000, under $5,000, and you have the desire to get something started in real estate, this guy, when we were talking about it on our first episode, I literally hit the leave the call button, and I sat there for like 10 or 15 minutes, and I was like, man, I gotta have him back on the show because I want to dive in a little bit further and figure out how all this happens, because this is as a real estate professional and somebody that routinely answers questions out in the public and gets public questions. Everybody wants to know, how can I take what little bit of money I have that I'm not feeding my kids with, making my house payments with, making my electric bill payments, and turn that into something of sustenance that can make me some money in real estate. Now, Brent, now that I've taken all of the time from the introduction, man, let's dive in. I'd like for you to kind of maybe recap a little bit from the first episode so that the listeners who didn't listen to the first episode might be able to get like caught up. And then, man, let's go. So tell us a little bit about you, just a brief synopsis, and then we'll let them. I'm also going to include in the show notes, listeners, a link to the episode, the first episode. So go ahead, Brent.
Absolutely. No, thanks again for having me, Casey. And I always love talking about land. And, you know, a lot of people are looking to get started in real estate with very little money or no money whatsoever, or no time, or in my case, worst case scenario, no time and no money. You know,
yeah.
I mean, that was me. And I feel like, you know, I just assume everyone was kind of like me, right? No time, no money, brand new newborn baby at home, just moved across the country with the military. Now, granted, I did have a job. I don't recommend people just going out and quitting their job.
Like, yeah, you didn't start under a bridge with literally the clothes on your back. I mean,
that's true.
You had something, but I guess the escape from that what I'm going to refer to as the W, what is it, the W-9? They always talk about getting away from the salary kind of stuff. So
yeah,
go ahead. So yeah, we want to make sure that that's clear. Like, I mean, Brent didn't have his homeless clothes on and his rucksack over his back. I mean, he was working a job or was in the military. You were in the military.
I
right?
was carrying a rucksack. Darn near broke my dang back doing it. But
so, yeah, I guess, yeah.
I did feel homeless at times, actually, when we would sleep in the field for like weeks at a time. So I guess I kind of was homeless, but there was no bridge to stop the rain and stuff. No, but you know, it was a season in my life though. 8.5 years in the military. I loved every second of it until I didn't love it anymore. Yep. And that was when I realized it's like, you're always gone, man. You're always away. How are you supposed to have a family? How are you supposed to have a wife that feels loved and respected if you're never, ever, ever home? And I watched so many families just melt away in the military, you know, just because of the fact that it's hard to have a marriage. It's hard to show our children love, and just the fact that we're there for them if we're always gone. So I watched so many divorces, and it ended up happening to me as well. So people are usually running towards pleasure or away from pain, and that's their two motivations.
Yep.
Mine is away from pain. Like I would work harder to avoid pain than to gain pleasure any day of the week. So I had a huge pain point. I was always gone, always away, always training, and my children were never getting to see me like at night, and my wife, there was no time for her either. And my pain point was I had already been through a divorce once from just being away, so I wanted to build a financial fortress around me and my family that nothing can ever get through. And that's how I came upon land investing, and it ultimately gave me cash flow. And I love your hat, Cash Flow Pro, because at the end of the day, do I still have, money problems from time to time? Yes, because I sometimes bite off more than I can chew, or I'll buy too big of a parcel of land, or we'll have 7 flips going on, plus an apartment complex, plus 34 townhome builds. And there might sometimes be more bills or contractors needing money than what I've got to pay. But here's what's cool. Every single month, those land payments come in. Those
Recharges.
land payments come in. It recharges. That's right. And if I would just slow down sometimes, I'd let it charge up a little bit longer.
What they said about Michael Jackson when he died was his estate was finally gonna start being worth some money because he wasn't putting it out as fast as he was bringing it in. So it happens at all levels, man.
That's so crazy just to know that Michael Jackson had some days where there was money issues. And all I'm saying is, like, I listen to so many podcasts and so many gurus out there, and I don't think I'm a guru. I'm just a guy that built a land business that supports me and my family and others and allows me time freedom and financial freedom. But do I still have challenges in my company? Yes. And I just wanted to make sure I talked about that, because no one ever talks about the obstacles that we still face as business owners. And going back to the beginning where I was saying, don't just go out there and quit your job. You can't plant an orange tree today and expect to live off of it tomorrow. You need to be planting orange trees for the next like 2 to 5 years. And I mean an orange tree a day. And that's kind of with our land business. I talked about on your first episode you had me on, about that first deal where I bought for $285 and sold it for $5,000. The second deal where I had $400 a month coming in, and I started out with no money. And this I know we were going to talk about how to do this with little to no money, and I will break down the steps if you'd like to do that. But that's where a lot of people are starting at.
Yeah. So we want to start with let's go a step-by-step process. All right.
Okay.
So let's start with the assessor's office. Now, I want to clarify this for the listeners, that some of these ideas can vary a little bit state by state. So, for instance, here where I live, I can go to our what we call the property valuation office, the PVA office, and I can tell them, hey, I would like to buy a list of, for instance, I bought a list about 2 weeks ago, and the list was, now this is for my real estate sales business, so this is a different story, but the girls were able to get everything put together. But I went in there and bought a list for everybody that had a piece of property that was assessed at a residence that was assessed at over $50,000, where the owners received their tax bill somewhere other than our county. Does that make sense? So
yeah, it does. It sounds like you're getting out of state or out of county owners.
Absentee owners. Okay. So what I'm getting at is, and in my real estate, when I was coach, I don't say coaching, but when I was offering some assistance to some other agents that were like, for instance, I had an agent in California and an agent in Florida, and that I was offering just some virtual assistance to, not for any fees or anything, but just to help. And they went in, that I told them about this process. Anyway, they found it difficult at their local assessor's office to get any headway. So I guess I'm prefacing everything you're going to say by some of this stuff could be different state by state. So I want to be careful about that, but we need to know what you did, because I feel like everywhere offers to some degree what we're talking about. Wouldn't you say, Brent?
Oh, I absolutely agree. And, My state where I started, we called it the actual treasurer's office. Because that's the person that the county treasurer is the person that makes sure all those taxes are paid. Florida, we call it the tax collector's office. And let's just say that we're in one of those states. It's not called the property valuation office, the PVA, as in Papa Victor Alpha, or the treasurer's office or the tax collector's office. There's a cool website called PropStream out there. You can get a 7-day free trial to this and pull a list that way. So no matter what, like if you hit an obstacle, you got to figure out, okay, do I take 3 steps to the right and keep walking forward? Or, oh, that didn't work. I'm going to take now 6 steps to the left and keep walking forward. You just got to keep figuring it out. Like yesterday, me and my wife.
Yeah, you have to have some degree of want to make some of this stuff work. I mean, just because, but I've seen so often, and I've been guilty of it myself, Brent, where like I hear, and I don't want to say guru because me and you are not gurus. We're just 2 regular guys that just so happen to be good and make good at real estate and we can make money from it. But I hear so many people out there who say like they give a topic like what we're talking about here, and then people take that and they turn around and they try to place everything to be exactly like we say. And then before we know it, they get screwed up because like maybe I guess sometimes I want to just take some of the obvious things and like sometimes the obvious to me and you isn't the obvious to somebody listening. So that's the case. I mean, but it's anyway. So yeah. But you have to have some want to get it done.
Oh yeah. There's gotta be a big enough why. My why was I wanted to get the heck out of the military so I didn't get another divorce. That's a pretty good why to make my butt get out of bed every morning at 4 a.m.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
It's like, not that my wife was threatening divorce, but I'd already had that happen. So in my psyche, in my mind, that could happen again. So like I was going to make some changes. I had to be at work at 6 a.m. From 6 a.m. to about 7 p.m. I was on base almost 13 hours a day. And so what did I do? I only had a way to make more time. There's only one way I can make more time. And that was sleep less. There was probably better ways to do it than that, but that's what worked for me. And, I deleted Facebook, got rid of freaking Netflix. How much is Netflix paying you to watch it? Like, and I'm like, nothing. Like, they're making tons of money off of you, though. Do I watch Netflix now? Dang right I do. I just binged Lincoln Lawyer. But that's not my bills are paid type thing. But back when I was building a business, and I still am building it, like we're always improving. Like you got to put work first. There's going to be some nights that you can't go out and hang out with the boys, or you got to drop the baseball team or whatever it is. And you just got to go and do it. So let's get to the steps. So, it's just like, it's first getting a list. You talked about absentee owners. That list that I got in Colorado was from the county treasurer's office. And I must have had to ask, her name was Cindy and still is. She still helps me to this day. I must have had to ask her 4 different ways. How do I get a list of people not paying their taxes on their property? She thought I was interested in paying the back taxes. I wasn't. I wanted to just see who was behind. And then you can take that list, and it's really cool what you said, Casey, and figure out if the mailing address is different from the property, or a different state, a different city, a different county. And it's like, oh, wow, these guys are, absentee owners. They don't live in the county and they're behind on their taxes. They must be motivated to sell this land. So then I would take a postcard, and I'll give the postcard right now. If you go to thelandsharks.com/postcard, that's the exact postcard that I used to buy tens of millions of dollars worth of land and houses. So it's yours for free. It's going to ask for your name and your email address. If you don't want to give it, that's fine. You just won't get the postcard, but I'll tell you what the postcard says. It says, hey, my name is Brent. I'd like to buy your land at 123 Main Street. And here's the thing about land. A lot of times it does not have an address. So I would just put the assessor's parcel number or the APN. And if you're interested in an all cash fair offer, please call or text me. God bless you, Brent, and then the phone number. And my return address would be like a post office box. I actually use my UPS box. I don't put my house address on there. I don't like people showing up unannounced at my house.
Yep.
Even if you're bringing cookies. It's weird. So that was the letter. And here's the next step. You got to take the phone calls. I didn't have time to take the phone calls. I was working those 12, 13-hour days. My grandpa would say, oh, it's only 12 hours a day. It's only a half day, grandson. Like, you're only working half days.
Yeah.
But I would go and sneak in the bathroom and return those calls. And I would talk to these sellers and see if there was a problem I could solve. What is the least you could take for that property, that parcel of land? And I would get their number. I would ask them another 5 different ways to figure out what they wanted to sell that land for. And I would thank them for their time and say, is it okay if I research this land? I'm going to get back to you because, look, I'm an Army officer. I'm doing this for some additional income. I've got 2 kids. I've got 2 babies under 3 years old. The diapers are killing me. Like, we would connect on a personal level. And that's what people forget is, like, when just starting out, we feel like we should know all the answers, right? But at the end of the day, what's more important is becoming a person to that seller and a person with challenges and issues of all of your own, and figuring out a way and listening to what that seller is trying to accomplish. Maybe they're selling the land because they're tired of paying the taxes. Maybe they just need $5,000 to pay for their grandchild's education.
And it's just
never
sitting
know.
there and they don't know what, and maybe they feel trapped. Maybe because they haven't paid the taxes that they just feel like, man, I really don't know what to do with this. Nobody's going to want it because the taxes are due. And you know what I'm saying? Because a lot of times people just don't know. They just don't know what to do.
You're so right. And it's because they're not in their right mind. They're facing a challenge. And a lot of times people could be facing death, divorce, sickness, taxes, and little things that might not seem so like, oh my gosh, why can't they just figure it out? Why wouldn't they just sell it rather than lose it to back taxes? Why wouldn't someone just sell their house that's going to go in foreclosure, then lose it on the foreclosure auction step? You're not in their mind because they just went through death or divorce or taxes or you name it. It could have been all those things, and they're not in their right mind. And that's where you listen for the solution, not to take advantage of people, but to figure out, how can I help this seller that's still, it's still going to be profitable to you. But if you're always thinking about your profit, like, you're not going to do too many land deals. You're not going to do too many house deals. Like, if you focus on solving that seller's challenge and problems, oh, there's so much money to be made. There's so much money. And that's what we're here for.
Well, and that's just the same as, and people, I'm trying to think about the best way. People identify, I don't know what's harder. People don't feel like getting that mindset right. I'm thinking here, like off the cuff, trying to figure out about how to say somebody that's wanting to solve a problem for somebody. The mindset of how do you approach that person that has the problem and say, hey, I'm here, I'm willing to help, especially when you start talking about money issues, because people with money issues, the people that don't have money issues approaching somebody that is having money issues feel like it's kind of like walking by the casket at a visitation and saying, hey, when you're ready to sell mom's house, give me a call. It's not so it's hard to determine the appropriate time. And a lot of times people feel like, well, he's going to cuss me out, or he's going to slam down the phone, or she's going to be this or that or whatever. And so I think that's a mindset thing to just say, hey, you could get cussed out for taking somebody's parking spot at Walmart. Is that going to make you not go back to Walmart ever again? So when you get that mindset that, hey, it's okay if somebody hangs up on you. Who gives a shit? Let them hang up on you. Go to the next person, the next person, the next person. Because how many times have you slammed the phone down, Brent, and you remember who that person was? Like, let's go back 3 years ago. Say you slammed the phone down on somebody 3 years ago. You don't remember that person, right? No, you have no idea who they are.
Heck no, I don't.
You went in one ear and out the other. You slammed the phone down and moved on. And so I think from somebody trying to step in and acquire one of these properties, and you're approaching somebody has back taxes, maybe, and again, this is likely not a property somebody necessarily has had financial, like they're not going through a bankruptcy right now because they haven't paid their $87 tax bill or whatever. I guess I'm just saying that like people need to get that mind right about how to approach these people.
No, I love it. And that's so true. It's like, I'll tell you, I am really nice to people that cold call me on the phone and cold text because, you know, I've been in that position for so many years. I've been in sales now for so many years, and I don't like when people treat me bad.
Well, and that's what we have to remember. You just said it. We're in sales. Even though we're buying, we're in sales.
That's so true. And it's like, I don't like it when people treat me bad, but you know, I don't want to treat anybody else bad. So it's almost taught me how to treat people better. And I'll tell you, it's just because they're yelling at you and cussing at you, like it's not personal. They're not saying that you are a terrible, stinky, lying, cheating person.
Process.
They're going through something really, really hard in their life. And they either are gonna accept your help or not. Next, there's always, like you see at the foreclosure auction, you know, a good mentor of mine says it. I would never say that. Like that is very arrogant to say that. However, it puts it in your mind. It's like, all right, well, if you don't want to take my help, I'll buy it at the auction steps. I'm just trying to get you more money now.
Exactly. I'm here now. Can I help? And if not, just kindly say no, thank you. We're fine. We're figuring this out. And some people do have a plan. Some people know that it's not going to be at the foreclosure steps. Mm-hmm. They know that, right? And so I'm talking about the owners, I guess is what I'm getting at. And so when the owner may already have a plan in place, and that's great. And a lot of times I just wish people would say, hey, man, no, we appreciate it, but we've got it figured out. And leave it at that instead of the other. So nevertheless, but let's talk. So you go to the assessor's office and you just send this postcard. And I might have missed, you said sometimes if there's not a name, you put the parcel number or whatever.
Yep. I'll put the assessor's parcel number. And usually people can kind of figure it out. Oh yeah, I have that land. Sometimes we'll just put in Colorado. Oh yeah, I have that piece of land.
So this is very geographically defined, right? I mean, are you only doing Colorado?
Yeah, there's a few areas I mail. I'm now in, and this is not how I started out, by the way. I started out in my own backyard. About a 2.5 hour radius is where I was driving. Now I mail certain areas in Colorado and Florida and Arizona, a couple other areas. But I started out in my own backyard because I had to get my feet on the ground. I'll give you an example why I love the 2.5 hour radius. I bought some land about 45 minutes of where I currently live now in Florida. Okay. And it was not selling. Like we had it all over, put it in my channel. I thought my cash buyers would take it. We've been sitting on this land like 2.5 months. And I was like, you know what? I figured it out. Brent, you got to get your lazy butt out there and go put up some signs. So I took a Saturday. Kids were out at Grandma and Grandpa's. I went to Home Depot. I got those. I really like those. It's this corrugated plastic. I like when I could buy a big sheet of it. You can get these at a lot of sign shops. You walk in there with $20 cash. They'll hand you one. Well, I was in a hurry. It was on Saturday. No sign shops were open. I went straight to Home Depot and bought these corrugated plastic sheets, and I think they're like $3 a piece. Actually, they're $9 a piece. I cut them in thirds, so I made them the $3 a piece. And I wrote on there, land for sale, will finance, phone number. Second one I did, $250 a month, land for sale, will finance. Third one, I wrote that in Spanish, $250. I don't even know Spanish. I was using my translate thing on my phone.
Yeah.
12 signs, put them out at intersections, stop signs, stoplights. I wanted the most people that would possibly go by that land. And the reason why I put it in Spanish is because we have a lot of Latinos in Florida. So I figured, okay, maybe someone that just speaks Spanish will see it. Already got them sold. Cash buyer, buying all three of them for $69,000. We bought them for $45,000. I did not sell them for as much as I thought I would. I thought we were going to get 90. However, when we bought them, we bought them further off the beaten path than we realized. It's like dirt roads, not the,
Yeah,
not the
I think that's another thing that scares people a little bit. And again, I'm gonna come back to the. I want to I want to briefly explain some differences here between if you've, and this is for the listeners, Brent, I'm sure you're aware of this, but okay, so if you take a United States map, right, lay it out, and you look at where are the fathers of our country or the people landed when they got here, right? And if you're talking, I'm merely talking East Coast, okay? Now, as people, you can look at a map. I mean, just look at a map and you can see how this development process happened. Because the further west you go, the squarer everything becomes, right? So when you're, and I'm getting to a point here that I want to make sure people are aware of, because this could definitely be a liability. So when you're in Kentucky, which is in Tennessee, which is where we're at, you have a land measurement system called meets and bounds, right? So basically, I've seen land descriptions in Kentucky that say from you know, in a northwesterly direction, from a painted rock to a rotten stump that is 862 feet away, right? So this rock is painted, right? And it was painted in like 1860. And this stump was rotten in 1860. So what are we measuring here? All right. So basically, you find evidence of fences and you find evidence of corner, you know, something else that might have been placed on this corner via the measurement, right? So what I'm getting at is sometimes these legal descriptions in the eastern part of the United States can be very, very difficult. And they can be, and a lot of times people think, okay, well, I go have an attorney do a title exam, right? Go have an attorney do a title exam. You go to the attorney says, hey, there's no mortgage on this property. It's free and clear. Everything's in good shape. And you buy it, right? Well, then come to find out. So an attorney does not do the physical part of the property. Like the attorney can't tell you that survey you've got or that legal description you got is right, wrong, indifferent, or any of the above. So you could end up with a piece of property that's landlocked. You didn't know it. You could end up with a piece of property that now you definitely have measurements, right? But you could end up with a piece of property that might have over the years been moved, or somebody thought it was moved, I guess. But the further west you move, you run into you use the what do they call that measurement system? Do you know, Brent?
No, I just remember the meets and bounds, and I'll tell you, me and legal descriptions, I use professional help.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. So I don't want this to sound like you just need to go out and start you find a piece of property that you think is worth more than, if they're asking 10 grand and you dump all your whole 10 grand into it, and then come to find out you've got access issues, for instance. Like I said, attorneys do not do anything with the physical property. They're only looking at the courthouse at documents that back up what it says is there, and they can tell you who all has owned it, so on, so on, so on. And that's the way it is. So I don't want people to think that, hey, somebody calls me, but you have to make sure that some of these issues, like you said, you have to go out and physically put, I mean, I just physically put eyes on the damn thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it really helps. And it really helps to buy land right off of roads. And I mean, it's fine if they're dirt roads, but I like county maintained roads. It's like, no question if you can get to your land or not. The first couple properties I bought, the second one was not accessible, and we had to get legal help. And, you know, I was given that checklist, though, you know, of asking that seller when they called from the postcard if you can have time to research it. And that's when I go in and do some quick research, and I call them back and I say, okay, you know, I asked you on the phone, you said you'd take about, you know, $3,000 for it. is that still, that still what you're thinking? Can you do anything better than that? And I really want to see if I can get it under contract for as little as possible, because at the end of the day, I've got to take into account all these things that could possibly happen, maybe access issues or whatnot. I wanted at such a massive discount. Well, what's a massive discount? Well, I love the fact of what Warren Buffett uses. He uses the 300% rule. And he didn't create that. He learned it from Benjamin Graham, who wrote The Intelligent Investor. So if that's worked for these very, very wealthy individuals, I'm going to use that as my starting point as well. So if I can get it for about 33 cents on the dollar, I am tickled pink, because I know that there's a lot of room for error in that.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm going to get it under contract for as little as possible. And I'm going to give myself at least a 15-day inspection period that I can cancel that contract for any reason whatsoever.
And make sure that, yeah. So with that being, I just Googled it too while you were talking there. I Googled it, and the only thing I could find is the township or a township section measuring system that moves out west. And the reason why I go back to this is because it's a little easier when they reference plot 6 of section 2 of township X. It gives you, boom, that's it, instead of the meets and bounds that runs from a painted rock to a rock stop. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Oh, yeah. Like Florida, I see it on the Florida legal descriptions. They're so much longer than Colorado. Colorado could be like 4 words. I'm like, are you sure this is right?
Yeah. And it just
plot 1, township 32.
It references a township, a section, a parcel. I mean, it's everything's square. It's like, I'm too old to be a runner much anymore, but one of my favorite places to run when I used to was Phoenix, because all you had to do is just count how many streets this way you went, count how many streets that way you went, and then go back that, and you were home. You didn't have to weave and turn. And anyway, so but all right, so we've got assessor's office. You go and you find a list that works for you, whether it be absentee owners, whether it be people that are behind on their taxes, whether it be a different combination of what works for your area. Maybe you've got an abundance of, I don't know, whatever type of people or places or whatever you've got there that don't live there or something like that. And maybe they've forgotten about this property, or maybe it's old air property or something like that. If you can find these parcels and then attach to them some kind of way to get a hold of these people, right? All right. So we've got assessor's office, we've got postcard, we've got mailing it. You're in Colorado at the time when you started, and you bought your first piece of land for $285 and you sold it for $5,000. And again, those opportunities are still available. That wasn't like a one-off deal where you were just like, now, granted, there's probably more people like yourself now out looking for this stuff, and that 285 might very well be 1,500 now because of whatever inflationary times we're living in. But so then this person says, hey, I'll sell you this piece of property for $285, and then you get an attorney or go to a title company or something of that sort and say, hey, I'm buying this piece of property for $285. Can you handle the closing? All that, right?
Yeah. And I'll answer that question. I usually first find a buyer. It's under contract.
Okay.
I got it under contract.
How long is your contract good for, and what did you?
I generally do 30 days. I've done them for 90 days. If I need more time on due diligence or inspection period, I generally set it for 15 days. If I need more time, I'll reach out to that seller and be like, look, I got to extend my due diligence, and here's why. I haven't found the buyer yet.
Are you familiar with the term novation?
Novation?
Yeah.
Nope. I don't even know what that is.
It's very similar to what you're doing and what these guys are doing. And when you're talking about finding a buyer before you actually execute and close on the property, one thing that I spoke with the gentleman about, as a matter of fact, on this podcast, is you just have to. He and I kind of went rounds. We weren't arguing. We were just having a discussion of sorts. And very, very amicable discussion. I just was like, man, listen, when you're in a position and you're like going in and you're telling these people, what he was doing the same thing, but with houses and stuff. Like people would have a house and he'd say, okay, I'm going to buy this. Then he would assign the contract before ever closing. And I mean, he was making like 50, 60, 100 grand, whatever it was, like wholesale. He was wholesaling on one side and then assigning the contract on the other. And I said, man, it just seems almost deceptive in a way. Not what you're doing, because I think land is a little bit different, especially people that are behind on taxes. But like he was going, like it almost had the feel of. So what I'm getting at is you have to be very, very careful when doing that.
I tell the seller exactly what we're doing. There's no deception whatsoever. I say, look,
yeah, I didn't mean that at all. Because this guy, but what I was getting at was this had the ring of, have you ever refinanced your house or something like that? And when you do, you have to wait that 3 days before you can, before it will fund the cooling off period or whatever that is. Well, that was brought on because in the 90s and early, well, I say just probably the 90s, all these people were going out to like these old people. These old people were just sitting at their house watching Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune and Price is Right, not bothering a soul. And these people would go out and convince them to refinance their house for an exorbitant amount of fees or whatever, right? And so.
Hi, this is Casey Brown, host of the Cash Flow Pro podcast and YouTube channel. Have you been thinking about investing in real estate but just don't know where to begin? I'd like to help by inviting you to check out our website at www.3000capital.com. There you will find an array of material that will help you learn all about real estate syndication. And while you're there, be sure to check out our free video series download titled 5 Must-Know Keys to Success in Passive Real Estate Investing. I'd also like to personally thank you for making Cash Flow Pro part of your day. Now, back to the show.
So that's when the government stepped in and they're like, okay, hey, if you're going to refinance, it's cool. We don't care. But before this funds, you can back out. You can call that bank and cancel everything right then. And so that was born out of that. And what I'm saying is it just seems like if you're up front with the seller, they're behind on taxes and there's other things, but like, it just seems like I told him, I was like, man, it's a prime stomping ground for somebody to go in and just convince these old people that, hey, I need to buy your house for $10,000 when it's really worth 200. And that's what I said. It was like, man, you got to be careful,
Yeah, you just got to be very transparent. And that's where I say, like, look, here's what I can pay. I'm going to send you a purchase agreement and I walk them through it. Like, this gives me the right to market this property. I do it two ways. I will buy it and I'll seller finance. That way I can get payments for it.
Well,
or I'll just assign my contract.
Yeah, I like that seller finance part because you're like, hey, I'll give you all your money up front. It's no different than somebody winning the lottery and getting $100,000 a year for the next 50 years, or getting $100,000 a month for the next 50 years. And then you step in year 3 and say, hey, I'll buy the rest of your payments out.
Yeah.
So it's really the same,
absolutely.
Especially if you're a seller financing that out. So.
Yeah, sometimes the sellers actually, we ask like, hey, what are you going to do with this, 15 grand? Or in one case, $1.2 million. And he said, look, I actually don't need it for a year. We're buying, blah, blah, blah. So he was interested in making interest on his money.
Yeah.
And we paid him payments and his principal didn't go away, but that's more advanced stuff.
Yeah.
I know
we're talking stuff to get started. Yeah. But
get started.
But look where it went, man. Look where it got you to.
Yeah.
Every day.
Oh yeah. It's just crazy.
Every day.
Everyone leads to another one.
Yeah. Now I want to go back and retrace that real quick. I want the listeners to understand in no way did I mean to sound like what anybody is doing is dishonest. It's just a simple way of making sure everybody's on the same page so that everything is straight up, just like he said. He had a very, obviously somebody has $1.2 million, doesn't need the money today, needs it in a year, is a very affluent seller, right? That's a pretty affluent individual that knows business. And so I just don't want anybody to think that I meant anything negative towards Brent. I just wanted to bring up the fact that you just have to be careful when assigning contracts, and you're in an assigning contract business because there's so many different things that can happen. And I've seen many angry sons and daughters step into deals because they didn't know mom was selling her house and they thought that or whatever. So anytime there's an individual that could potentially has the idea or the thought that they're incapacitated in any regards, you must follow certain procedures. So anyway, all right, Brent, man, I know you're in a rush. You've got meetings. I've got meetings, but man, I want to thank you so much for coming back on the show. And I know that in the future we're going to do more shows because this is where people are, and this is how people can get started in real estate, little to no money in their pocket, and really build a multi-million-dollar company like you've done.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, and thanks for having me, but at the end of the day, if you can get something under contract at a discount and you have your buyer lined up as well, how do you find those buyers? I find them on Craigslist and Facebook and Signs.
Absolutely.
It's almost like it's almost like a guarantee that you are going to make money because so many people are afraid to pull that trigger. That's why we line the buyer up first. And then you have other options. You can assign that contract to that buyer for some quick cash. My dad's done about 55 of those. Or Casey, you want to buy it for me for $9,000? I'm getting it under contract for $3,000. It's really worth $9,000. You're going to give me $3,000 down and $300 a month for the next 65 months at 12% interest. That's a home run deal. So that's what I just want to leave your listeners with is get it under contract for as little as possible. This could work with bicycles broken down on the side of the road. You find the bicycle, you go and put a new tube in the tire, you air it up, you shine it up, and sell it on payments. Like this could work. This is how a kid can make an extra $100 a month.
That's right. And that cash flow, people think wealth is what separates everybody, and it's not wealth; it's cash flow. People talk about all these really affluent, brilliant basketball players and business people and football players that like, for instance, Shaquille O'Neal, right? You look at his net worth, $400 million, right? Go Google it, whatever you want to do, $400 million. But the fact of the matter is he probably doesn't have $400 million sitting in his bank account. He's got the cash flow every month. He gets a check. Boom. That's what it's worth. And again, that's an annuitized amount. So anyway, Brent, I want you to just real quick, briefly tell the listeners how they can reach out to you. Maybe they have a piece of land they want to sell. And that's definitely a good place to start here. Or maybe you want to learn. Again, he gave you his website. Give that website again so they can get a copy of that postcard, and tell the listeners how they can reach out to you or the Land Sharks.
Yeah, if you want a copy of the postcard, thelandsharks.com/postcard.
Plural.
And thank you. It is plural. The Land Sharks. And if you want to check them out more or go to YouTube, learn some more, just search Brent Bowers on YouTube. And you can obviously head to thelandsharks.com and schedule a call. And
listeners, as usual, please head down and leave us a review, a 5-star review at that, and type something so that other listeners may know what the Cash Flow Pro is about and what we talk about, because they may need you to point them in the direction to get financial freedom as well. Also, please smash that subscribe button. We would love for you to be notified when we release new episodes so that you can hear more value like what my guy Brent here brought. And Brent, man, again, I know that the listeners are going to get a massive amount of value out of learning how to make these deals and make these deals happen. So reach out to Brent, the Land Sharks with an S.com. And you can get his postcard at thelandsharks.com/postcard.
Yep, you got it.
Cool. Got it, man. All right, Brent, thank you, sir.
Cash Flow Pro is hosted by Casey Brown, founder and CEO of 3000 Capital, a commercial real estate investment firm committed to providing its investors with ongoing cash flow and helping them build long-term wealth. If you enjoyed today's podcast, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you'll be notified about all our future episodes. You can find more information about us and our investment philosophy by clicking the link in the show notes below. Thanks for listening.